Alright, so today I'm going to put a 6-inch extension block on my 14-inch Delta bandsaw. The parts that I got are specifically for this Delta model 14-inch bandsaw. I think this is like an mid-80s model, but these instructions should be relevant for pretty much any 14-inch bandsaw. Most of the riser kits are basically the same. The only difference is there is a set of pins inside here, and the Jet riser kits will line up with the Jet pins and Grizzly and whatnot. So this is with the specific Delta kit, but again, these should kind of go for everything. When you go up with the 6-inch extension, you're going to need a longer blade. So this is a 105-inch blade as opposed to what I believe was like a 90-something inch blade. And this is just because you're making the saw taller, so you need a longer blade. And the kit comes with everything that you need. Comes with some instructions. This is the actual riser block, guards, stuff like that. So I'm going to go through everything, just show you how to do it. Before I start, the one thing that you're going to need the most, for me at least, is this is a 1 1/8 inch box wrench, and the reason you need that is that there's a bolt in here that you're going to need to get to, and with an adjustable it's too hard. So you don't need 2 box wrenches, but if you can get one that's an 1 1/8, which is what my bolt is, and then an adjustable to grab the other bolt, it'll make tightening it a lot easier. Otherwise you're going to really have to mess around with 2 adjustable wrenches in order to get it tight. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're obviously going to want to unplug your machine. Mine's unplugged. I have a light installed on it, so I'm going to have to take that off. And also going to have to take the blade off. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Now, the top of this is going to be really heavy. So the lightest you can make it, the better. A lot of people in the reviews for these extension blocks say to use a second person. I don't have another person to help me right now, so I'm going to have to give it a shot on my own. Shouldn't be too bad, but let's get my blade off of here. I don't have a quick release blade either. This is a pretty old saw, so I gotta just loosen the blade with the knob. Also, if you're going to go ahead and get an extension block, I recommend getting new tires for your wheels. I know the tires on my wheels were the original rubber tires, and they were all cracked, and they didn't let my blade track very well, so I took them off and I got new tires. They're pretty easy to install. You just got to heat them up in hot water for a little while, and they stretch out and go over the existing wheels nicely, and they really help your saw track the blade really well. So goodbye to these old blades. Okay. And all this is going to be replaced as well with, all this stuff is going to be replaced with new, longer things, but I'm going to wait until I'm completely done adding the riser block before I mess with any of this stuff. The next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to want to remove the switch, because this is all going to have to get lifted up. So the way to remove this, you have to take the plate cover off, and then I believe there are actually bolts on the back, so I'm going to see if I can remove the bolts on the back without taking this plate cover off. Okay, ready to loosen this and take this off. Actually, not ready. You need to remove this bar, which is the blade guard. So by removing this, the only thing that will be holding the top assembly to the bottom assembly will be the large bolt right here. So I'm going to take this off. The left side blade guard is actually also going to be replaced by a longer one, so you can take this off completely and just set it to the side. And the stock one that came on my saw when I got it, which was secondhand off of Craigslist, is all kind of bent, and the blade would rub against it, so I'm pretty glad to get rid of it. You can see it's pretty twisted. The new one is actually all aluminum, and as you can see, much longer. So that's where it's going to be going up to when we're all done. So the next move is going to be to remove this bolt. Like I was saying before, this is an 1 1/8" box wrench, and it'll fit right on this bolt up here. And then for the bolt on the lower side, I don't have a wrench that will fit it, but you can kind of wiggle an adjustable wrench in there, and you can get to it. So. Okay, so here we've got the bolt, the original bolt, which has a cut washer so that it fits against there. And now you can see the new bolt, which is right here, which is much longer. And this bolt should thread, there we go, so this threads on there. And if I'm not mistaken, this will go back up there, like so. Maybe I should put that on the bottom. I'm not exactly sure which way I'm going to do that yet. But cross that bridge when we get to it. So now, this is completely free. And from what I understand, this is quite a heavy piece. So and it's on there pretty good. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take everything off the bench. Move it all to the side. And I'm going to support this with just a chunk of wood, just so it doesn't fall. Okay, so I've got just a piece of 4x4 right here, just so that this doesn't want to fall that way. I'm going to give this a couple whacks with a rubber mallet and see if it'll loosen up. That's on there. Let's try to wedge it. Okay, so it's starting to spread apart right down here, which is good. It's mostly not wanting to do it because of the pins that are in it. And like I said, I have no idea how heavy this is. I'm assuming it's pretty heavy from what I've read online. So I'm going to be really careful because I don't want it to fall and bend. Okay. Okay. Alright, so now it's totally free. And I can lift it off. Alright. Okay, it is pretty heavy. But nothing that you can't handle. Okay. So now, here you'll see the pins. These are the Delta pins. And you can see the location where they were down there. And now you can see this is the extension block. And the pins on the extension block match up with the pins that were on the actual saw. From what I read, you can use a jet extension block on the Delta or Grizzly extension block, but the difference is that the pins won't line up. So what you'll have to do is, what people do is they re-drill holes in their extension blocks when they get them so that they'll match the Delta pins. I didn't really want to deal with that. It wasn't worth the $10 or $15 to save by getting the Grizzly or the Jet one, so I just went with the Delta, and I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I'd rather have the right part for the job, you know? Okie dokie. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, so on the extension block there's a little mark right here. According to the instructions, that's supposed to go facing up. So put this on. Looks like the stock pins there aren't really like knurled down or anything, so I don't really have to worry about grinding them. I'm just going to tap this in. Should be using a rubber mallet. Can't seem to find mine, so I'm going to go with this wood mallet. Okay. That seems to be seated pretty well. Let's give it a couple more whacks. There we go. Now it's seated nice and flush. Also included with the kit are 2 more pins, which will then go in here, and they'll match up with the holes on the bottom of the top piece of the saw. So we'll tap those in a little bit. Now the next step is going to be to get the top of the saw back up here. I'm going to try and use this again to kind of support the saw. So I'm going to lower the blade guard on the saw top. I'm going to lower this blade guard down, as far as I can, probably till about there. Kind of act as a support so that when I put it on, it rests on it. And then these 2 holes in the bottom should be good. So let's see how this works out. Alright. Now this is on there. And it seems to be seated pretty well. The only problem is I don't have any way to support this, which is not really great. Let's see if I can get a chunk of wood in there. Anything. Okay. So, got this supported now, somewhat, with this chunk of wood. Let's see if I can't make this a little bit lower. There we go. Okay, so at least this isn't going anywhere. Definitely made my saw a lot taller. You can see now the block is in. Saw is huge, but I'm excited to have the height. The next step is going to be to use the new large bolt that came with it, which is right here. And now this is going to get dropped through, but first you got to put the washer on. And now this is the cut washer that came with it. Before I put it in, I'm also going to check my wrenches that I have, see if they'll fit. So my adjustable wrench will fit on this now square head. I don't know if I'm going to have the same luck with my box wrench that I was using, which will fit on the square head. We'll see how that goes when it comes to tightening it. And I'm using the stock bolt that I had, came with the saw, but that won't fit in my box wrench, and I don't have a larger box wrench than this, so I'm going to have to hope for the best, or worst case scenario, I'll just grind out my box wrench to make it fit. I've encountered a problem. This does not want to fit through, so I kind of thought that was going to happen. So what I'm going to have to do is take this off and then put it back on with the bolt already through it, and then slide it over it. Yeah, that's a nice tight fit. Okay. Alrighty. Now we're back on there. seated up the way we were and the bolts in. The split washer, the slip cut washer is supposed to sit like that. That's good. It's coming out the bottom, that's good. Now we have the stock bolt, and then we've got a split washer to keep it tight. So that'll go on the bottom. Come over on this side. This will go up in here. Just tighten this down. Okay. Now I can get my adjustable wrench down here. Probably be easier if I took this lower door off. There we go. It's pretty tough to get. I definitely recommend using the correct size box wrench. And then for the top, looks like I'm just going to have to turn this a little bit at a time with my large box wrench. I could probably even get a channel locks in there. And this is going to be a painfully long process of trying to tighten this up without being able to get a box on it. The only way I've been able to figure out how to tighten this bolt without having the right size wrench for the bottom bolt is to very slowly just kind of move it along using the wrench on an angle to just wiggle it just enough for you to get it on there and then really wrench it down. In tandem with that, I've been using these channel locks to kind of grab onto the bolt from the top and just twist it just enough so that I can get my wrench on it and just turn it a little bit. And it really is a pain to get it along, but it's going slowly but surely. So what I would recommend is having, if that's 1 1/8, a little bit larger of a wrench, which will grab the bolt on the bottom that comes with it from the factory, because I can't turn this crescent wrench at all because there's just not enough clearance with the size of the head of the wrench. So having to tighten this top bolt is a huge pain, and now it's kind of slowing me down, but we're almost there. The split washer that's on the bottom is pretty much compressed all the way. I just want to give it a couple more turns just to really lock it down, and from that point on we can start installing the rest of the parts. Okay, so the riser block's all installed, it's all tight. The next thing to do is just make the rest of the pieces fit with the new extended saw. So, like I showed before, this is the new left side blade guard. So by opening up the doors, you can see that it should fit right in there, and the holes line up perfect. So I'm going to use the stock screws that it came with and put these back on. And the stock screws fit right inside. Okay, so the guard's on. Next we're going to move around to this. So by loosening this all the way, this piece comes out. Now, we're keeping the blade guard assembly, which is down here. The only things that you're replacing are the side, which is like basically for your fingers. I'm sorry, this is not the blade guard. This is for tracking, and so this is the blade guard for your fingers. Make sure they don't get caught up or anything else caught up. And then you need to replace this because this is too short, because now the saw is much taller. So all the parts come with it. You need some Allen keys. Gonna swap those now. So there's just one set screw Allen key in there that takes this beam off. Now you can swap it with the new beam. Okay, so once you've got the extended post on there, you'll see that it should fit perfectly fine. actually messed up. The post needs to be installed into this shaft before you can attach it, because otherwise you can't get it back in. So once the extended post is in, put the bottom on, tighten that up, try and make it, you know, about where you think it's going to lay square. You're probably going to have to do final adjustments once you get the new blade on. And with that on there, you're also going to want to now attach the upper blade portion, which there's a bolt right here, and there's a screw in the top of the saw right here. And this goes on here like this, and it's actually got to get spaced out so that it will fit. In the instruction manual, it mentions that on some of the older saws, you'll need to space this piece out, and since this saw is pretty old, it looks like I'm going to have to do it. And it comes with a spacer, so basically what it is that this has a little L bracket on top, and there's a hole right here. So this is supposed to loop down into it. Since my saw is pretty old, they include a little spacer. Goes on there, goes right on here. They include an extra bolt. Put that right on there. They include all sorts of hardware for it. Basically just going to tighten everything up, and that should be it. Now I actually am having a problem with my saw where I can't raise my blade guard up any higher, and that's because there's a section of the blade guard that's hitting. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of just bend it over, which is easy enough, and then it should be able to be raised up high enough. Might need a little bit of adjusting, but that's no big deal. Chances are I'll just grind away a little bit of this, and other than that, it should be ready to go. So. Okay, so now that we've got this done, next step is to install the new blade. So here we've got, this is a 3/8 inch, and it's 4 TPI. It's more of a resawing blade. The real purpose of me expanding my saw another 6 inches was for doing resawing. I like to make boards out of logs, so the 6-inch height on it really wasn't enough. So this new blade, when you put the blade on, you'll notice, you know, if things aren't really lined up right. Like right now, I'm noticing that my blade trackers aren't really set up to fit the blade that I just tried to put on. So I'm gonna kind of just do little adjustments to everything. All my blade tracking is gonna need to be completely adjusted because, you know, I just basically changed the entire saw. So I'm not really too worried about it right now, but it's just something that I'm going to need to keep up on. Okay, so once you've got your blade tracking right, check it with your hand, you know, make sure it's lined up in the top wheel and the bottom wheel, and make sure everything's clear from the blade, and fire it up. I like to leave the doors open just so that I can see if the blade starts to like wildly track forward or backwards, and I don't really want to put everything away until I'm sure that it's going to run right. So it's plugged in, my switch is ready, I'm standing back, and I'm just going to turn it on and see what happens. Okay, everything's running good. and I'm excited to use it. That's pretty much it. This is the Delta 14-inch bandsaw with the Delta model 28984 height attachment, and it took me about an hour to do by myself. No real specialty tools. The only thing I needed was that 1 1/8 inch box wrench and a little bit of patience, and I pretty much got myself a brand new bandsaw for about $100. So hope this helps, and I hope this encourages people to go out and get the height attachment and give it a shot. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and comment and rate my videos.